Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm going to be doing quick TA on how I believe Bitcoin's likely going to be headed towards 120K based on our current market conditions. So, if we zoom out and we go over to the hourly time frame, we could see that we have built this massive inverse head and shoulder structure right here, right? And right now, we are testing the neckline as a form of support. And we just recently got a break of structure, which is normally an indication that we are honoring this level as a form of support. Instead of just coming down and testing it and getting a bounce, what you really want to see is that higher high created. But the problem is what we're dealing with is we're fighting a supply concern at the exact same moment we're getting that confirmation. So once this is fully mitigated and we get price action above this previous point of control right here at 114.9K, then I feel like it'd be a lot easier for Bitcoin to start soaring towards the measurable target of the inverse head and shoulders. And how we get the measurable target for inverse head and shoulders structures is you get the neckline, which is right here. Let me just pull up a tool that makes this a little bit easier. So we got here is our left shoulder, right? And then when you're looking for the head of the inverse head and shoulders, you want to find the lowest peak. And then you look for horizontal resistance that was respected. And then we come down to the next low peak. And we have our inverse head and shoulders, right? And the momentum defines the target for this kind of structure. So we find that momentum by getting a trend line from the resistance level down to the head of the inverse head and shoulders. And you just click and you drag to the neckline, and that's how you get your measurable base target. So this suggests that if the momentum were to be maintained, that we would get to about 119.8K, right? And at the same time of creating this structure, we broke down trending momentum and we tested a previous macro valley area high. And I say macro, I mainly just mean just an aged valley area. So if we go over here, we can see that we had this valley area that we were consolidating within before we broke out for about 60 days. And when we came down where the head is, we came down to test that exact level, that previous valley area high, and confluence with a low with a decent amount of liquidity. And now we're getting this inverse head and shoulders posture, which is a sign of accumulation, right? Lots of buyers coming in. So all we need to have to do now is just mitigate the rest of this supply, and then Bitcoin should be running up. A lot of people might have already entered a long position using this low here as a stop loss guard, because that would be the change of character level at that moment when we had that break of structure where people would most likely jump in. Right after, if we zoom in on the 15-minute, we were talking during the last live about how we could also SFP here first before getting that continuation, because we had massive sell walls in the order book. There was about 500 Bitcoin ready to be sold here and about 500 more Bitcoin ready to be sold here around 14.5K. And we came up and we SFP'd off the first sell wall. And we mitigated that sell wall and we SFP'd right here, came down and hit the local target. And then we came up again, got another SFP, filling the rest of the sell walls, and hit, basically bursted past the location where I would be targeting, honestly. If I took this SFP, this is where I'd be preparing my exit plan, but it did go a lot lower. But now we're coming up, after all those sell walls have been mitigated, we also tapped into an hourly and 30-minute order block that was right here that's mitigated. So now there's not much left to hold down the price other than this previous point of control up here. So we might get that run up finally. So if anyone jumped in on this, congrats so far. You're only a little bit in the profit, but we could see this thing run a lot more. So if you're late to the party, I'll be looking for continuation structure so you can have a different stop loss to define different form of R&R, but it might be a little bit higher risk. So that's Bitcoin and why I expect for it to get to around 19.8. Now, it could take some time based on our momentum right now. If we grab a trend line from our last, where we get these 2 points of interest here, we'd have to watch the order books to see if this will be respected. But if we maintain this momentum, it is suggesting that it could take about 2 days or so to get up there, which is prior to the potential rate decrease next week. If we go into forexfactory.com, we can see into around September 17th, we have an FOMC statement and federal funds rate, which is predicted to go down by 25 basis points. Some people are estimating that it could go down like 0.5, like 50 base, like 0.5 basis points, but I don't think that's very likely. The fact that we're getting this rate decrease honestly is not a really good sign for the economy. It might have it will likely have a strong boost in assets. So if anyone's holding any assets right now, then they're likely going to go up in reaction or response to this, because it's a warning of inflation coming in, right? So the valuation of the US dollar could go down. So if you're a fiat holder, sometimes these are usually good moments to prepare for going more risk on. So I could see Bitcoin also having a bullish continuation response to that. And we're starting to see people accumulate in preparation to kind of like undercut that date, right? So yeah, we might see some continuation structure after potentially hitting this target in response to the rate cut coming up, right? Okay, so that is pretty much it for Bitcoin. If you guys have any questions about this, you can reach out to me in the Discord. But so far, everything's looking so good. We got this little boss that we're fighting right now, and then the next big boss before hitting the target is this value area low at 117K. So if you see like a bearish change of character around this area, I would take it seriously and maybe take some off the table. And by then, you should be able to have your stop loss definitely at break even, or at least at a new strong low. If we have a follow-up break of structure leading our way up there, you can move it at that strong low on like the 15-minute time frame. Part of the reason why this is such a big deal around 117K is that we have this supply concern right here. We have some order blocks resting there. And if we zoom out a little bit, let's go to the hourly. We can see that we had this consolidative range where we were consolidating for about 16 days, right? 16 days, 14 hours. So this 16-day value area low, like previous value area low, could act as a strong form of resistance. But the moment we get acceptance within it with a break of structure, then the probability of us rotating to that value area high dramatically increases and making it relatively close to our target. So once we get that acceptance, then you can get that target extension to around 119K, and we should have our target hit shortly after that. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. I just did a quick, less than 10-minute analysis on Bitcoin. I do want to let you know one thing about the on-chain data before I let you go, is that we did have another decent reset on the RPL chart when we consolidated for so long. Let me just refresh this chart just to make sure we got all the newly rendered data. Okay, we do. But yeah, this is last dated for August when the price was at 116K, that the RPL levels are at 1.18. So this is still suggesting that we're only about halfway to the macro bull market top. And I'll have a video out for you guys very soon about how I call the exact tops. I do have one kind of already out, and I'll include that in the description down below so you guys can follow along with it. But I'll be going over in great detail in an upcoming video how to call the exact top, so you can just refer to that video when you're feeling like it might be the top. Some people sell emotionally from news events, but I look at the on-chain data to define when is the best time to sell. And right now, we're only about halfway there, guys. So I'm expecting that Bitcoin's price will be roughly around 200,000, maybe 230,000 before we get into the overheated zone, assuming we don't consolidate and reset the market along the way, like we have been consistently since March of 2024. Every single time we had these long-term consolidations, we've had this really crazy healthy reset to extend our bull market target, as it lets like old investors get out and new investors get in, and it creates a more stable market environment for Bitcoin. Normally in bull market rallies, we just go straight up. It's really unsustainable, and then we have these 80% corrections. So the market's like looking more and more healthy, honestly. All right, cool guys. I will see you guys in the next video. I have a live tomorrow at 11 a.m. So I'll see you guys there. All right, bye.